This market is doing something that shouldn't be possible. Fewer people are that shouldn't happen. Not in any system that follows basic logic. Because when demand falls, prices are supposed to follow. But this market doesn't follow that rule anymore. It looks normal on the surface, and that's exactly why it feels so uncomfortable. You felt this before. Scrolling listings late at you don't feel confused. You feel like the rules changed and nobody told you. This is where it gets interesting because the market didn't and once you understand those steps, not comfortable but clear. Because right now, you're not entering a normal market. You're entering a frozen system. And they don't crash when you expect. They trap people quietly. This is not just about buying or selling, it's about your ability. This is not a demand problem. This is not a supply problem. This is a structural problem. It adjusts slowly, so while you're making this is where most people lose. Not because they think the system still works like before, but so instead of reacting, and that starts with the first force, money. Not how much you have, but how much it costs to use it. For a brief moment in time, money became extremely cheap. Interest rates dropped below 3%, something that had never really, and that changed behavior instantly. Because when money is, this is not luck, this is math. At 2.7%, a 320,000, that's over $700 more every single month. For the same house, the same street, the same, nothing physically changed. But financially, this is not inflation in the and when leverage changes, behavior follows. People didn't just buy homes. They bought more than they originally planned. Because the numbers told monthly payments felt manageable. Even when so demand didn't grow slowly. It surged all and when everyone moves at the same, they spike. This is where it gets important. Because the system, it adapts. And once it adapts, then rates rise. And suddenly everything shifts again. But this time, in the opposite direction. Prices stay high, but affordability, and that creates the gap between what things cost and what you can actually afford. And that gap is not small, it's structural. Because your income didn't double, this is not temporary, this is a system shift. And system shifts don't correct quickly. They stall. That's exactly where we are now. A stalled, not collapsing, not recovering. Just stuck. And stuck systems create pressure instead. This is probably happening to you, trying to decide when to move, when it finally makes sense. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Because the system itself is unclear, and that pressure leads to the second force. Locked supply. Millions of homeowners have mortgage, many below 3% rate, and that changes behavior completely. Because this is not emotional, this is financial. If you had a 2.7% mortgage, you wouldn't so people stay. Families grow, jobs change, priorities shift, but the house stays the same. Not because it's perfect, but because leaving is expensive. This is not preference, this is and that constraint locks supply in place. So now you have fewer buyers and fewer sellers at the same time, and that creates something unusual. A freeze. This is where it becomes personal. Because now the system connects directly to your life, this is where most people lose. Not in the math, but in how they react to it. Because uncertainty doesn't slow people down, and you've felt this. Checking listings more often, thinking about it more than you plan to, not because you're ready, but because you feel like time is moving without you. This is not strategy, this is pressure, and pressure changes behavior. It doesn't remove risk. It hides it behind urgency. So instead of asking, that shift is where mistakes begin. This is the third force, psychology. People don't buy when the math is perfect. They buy when the pressure is highest and justify it after. This is the part nobody talks about. Most decisions feel logical, and the system depends on that. Because once you feel behind, higher payments, less margin, and this is where Luna appears. Luna is 32. She works in healthcare administration. She has no debt. She did everything right, everything people told her to do, and by every traditional. But the market doesn't respond to rules anymore. It responds to structure. The home she's looking at costs $380,000. At today's rates, her base taxes, insurance, maintenance, her take-home income is about $4,600. That means over 60% goes to housing. This is not affordability. This is compressed, and this is the decision point. Does she walk away, or does she adjust? Most people adjust, because walking away feels like falling behind. So they tell themselves a story. This is just how maybe those things happen, but right now, they are assumptions. And assumptions are dangerous inside a broken system, because this system doesn't correct quickly. It absorbs pressure slowly. Now imagine 1 year later. Luna owns the home. The excitement is gone, but the payment is still there. Every month, $3,000. Nothing dramatic happened, no crisis, just steady pressure. She starts adjusting her life. Fewer trips, less flexibility. Unexpected expenses feel heavier. Small problems feel big. This is not failure. This is margin disappearing. And margin is everything. Because financial stability is not about income. It's about how much space you have left. This is the insight most people miss. It's about margin. And when margin is small, everything. Now go one step further. If rates drop quickly, the situation doesn't instantly improve because demand returns immediately, but supply stays limited. So prices can rise faster than. And the thing people are waiting, this is not intuitive, but it's exactly how constrained systems behave. And this is why the market feels impossible. No clear entry point, no obvious right, just trade-offs. And trade-offs require clarity. Not emotion, not urgency. Clarity. So here's how you navigate this correctly. If housing costs more than 30%, you're buying pressure. If you can't stay at least 7 years, you're taking short-term risk in a long-term decision. If you're buying because you feel behind and reactions are expensive, because the system doesn't reward speed, it rewards clarity. This market looks normal, but it's completely broken. Not because it collapsed, but because it stopped. And once you understand that, you stop following the crowd. And you start asking a better question. Does this actually work for my life? Because if it doesn't, and if it does, you just need to think clearly when everyone else is. That's the difference. And that difference changes everything.